Wow. Hi, this is Karen Williams, the book mentor, and today I'm delighted to be with you with Karen Mason, who is a former Librotas client, and she published her book Pause in September last year, so that's September 2019. She is the founder of Leading on Purpose, and her book was written to give leaders a practical guide to cultivate healthy teams. She wanted to challenge toxic cultures and behaviours in organisation and give leaders the tools to achieve outstanding results by developing relationships and engagement across their organisation. And in our interview today, Karen's going to be talking more about her journey of writing the book, why she decided to write it, what inspired her to get started, and share some tips for you to get your book out there. So, Karen, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Karen. Lovely to see you.
Wonderful. It is nice to catch up with you as well. I'm looking forward to just generally catching up with you after our interview today. So my first question, though, is tell us a bit about why you wrote the book and what inspired you to get going with it.
Okay, so I guess like a lot of things, I didn't wake up one day and suddenly decide I'm going to write a book. I think the journey's been probably quite a long one, and I'm going to take us back to my corporate career. So I've worked in a large corporate for 20 years, and during that 20 years saw a lot of changes. And I think the change that impacted me most was the change that took place on returning after having had children back into the workplace, and the shift in focus that I had to have, but also how it felt. And that for me was a particularly difficult time, making that transition. And I still do a lot of work today with returning mums from a place of real empathy, knowing how difficult it can be going back into a very performance focused, work focused organisation. One at the time that was going through transition. There was a lot of reorganising going on, and I felt very undervalued. I didn't feel like I belonged, and it was a very dehumanizing experience going back after maternity leave, not really feeling I fitted in anywhere. And it took, well, I don't think I ever really recovered from that.
Wow. Okay. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. A lot of women can relate to that, going through that sort of situation. As you say, you work with a lot of women going through that right now.
Yeah, and I think it's very hard when you're in the workplace to take time and to pause to actually think about the effect that coming back into a working environment has on somebody who's been out for a period of time, whether that's on career breaks, for illness reasons, or out from a maternity break. So actually thinking about people's induction and re-entry, or even entry as a new start into a business, is a crucial part of people feeling like they belong really, really quickly. It's something I touch on in the book. So I continued the career for in the corporate for a number of years after returning, but never actually got back to a place where I felt I truly was making a difference and wanted to continue. So I left in 2007, and since then I've been on a bit of a quest to find out, is it like this in all organisations, or do some more organisations do it differently? And I guess, I've seen examples of both, and I've had the fortune to work with an awful lot of leaders who recognise the need to develop their own skills, to inspire and to engage their teams and to build great teams. But it tends to be pockets, islands, of individuals looking to make a difference rather than as a collective, as whole organisations. It seems a much harder thing to deliver as a bigger organisation, and that's been my continued experience, that we have some examples of fantastic leadership. And so what I've studied is, so what is it about those fantastic leaders, those really great leaders, those great teams that make a difference? And I've tried to capture some of that in the book. So yes.
So that was your inspiration behind it. So thank you. And I know before we started the interview today, and I know you and I both put out on social media what people wanted to find out from you today. And actually, I've got one question from Helen, actually, and I'm going to pose it to you now because it feels relevant. So how did you know that you wanted to write this book, and how long did it take from having the idea before you put pen to paper?
So the actual knowing I wanted to write a book probably came about, it's something I've been muting probably for about the last 4 or 5 years to people. And people reminded me that actually you were talking about writing a book quite a long time ago. It didn't feel like it when you and I first met and we got started. But people have reminded me since. I've been talking about it for a while. The actual writing of it itself was relatively quick. So once I made the commitment and decided I was going to do it and put the support mechanisms in place, the actual writing to having it published was about 18 months.
Yes.
So, so a fairly quick process in terms of actually turning it round. I think the ideas by the time I came to write had been forming over, almost decades. So I knew, I was very clear about what I wanted to write about. I just didn't know how I was going to put it together.
So what was the tipping point that took you from dreaming about it and thinking about doing it to actually deciding to actually write it?
It's a good question. It was actually somebody else's book arriving from Amazon on my doorstep, and I opened a copy of this particular book, and there was just something in me that said I would love to produce something similar. Not in terms of the content, but just in terms of the look and feel and the impact that it had landing on the doormat. And that, I think, was the tipping point. That was the trigger that kind of got me to start seriously exploring how I could make that a possibility.
Fantastic. So obviously then you found me, we started working together, and as you say, it took about a year to 18 months, didn't it, to actually get the book out of your head down onto paper. We started with a day together in London, and then right. Obviously the team helped you to actually get the book edited, proofread, designed, published, etc. So what would you say have been your biggest challenges during that period of working on the book and actually making it happen?
I think the biggest challenge is committing time to writing. I had something to write when I didn't have the time, or I had the time and I wasn't feeling particularly creative when I didn't want to write. There was resistance. So actually getting the two to marry up and come together, that was kind of the first challenge. The day in London that we had together was really inspiring insofar as really allowing me to kind of put some structure around my thoughts. And by the time we'd finished, I had a real clear structure around my chapters and the content and how I wanted things to kind of unfold through the writing. So that was a really helpful starting point. And it was then obviously fleshing out my ideas, getting some practical examples, contacting people for that, seeking permission for using some of the illustrations that I've used or the diagrams, frameworks that I've used, and getting people's case studies, stories to go in the book. So all of that, it involves time sort of beyond, I'm not just dependent on myself for those kind of things. I had to reach out and ask other people to get involved as well. And of course, beta readers as well. Getting beta readers on board. Actually, people were very, very generous. And I was delighted with people who got involved, were very, very supportive of that part of the process as well.
Well, I know you had some raving fans and people who are just really cheerleading you on from the sidelines to actually help you to write it. So people you'd worked with, people who were clients of yours, people who you developed collaborations with, and I think that was brilliant to actually have them, being next to you as you were on the journey and giving you feedback as you went as well.
Most definitely, yeah, and that definitely in terms of keeping me motivated and committed to actually finishing what I started. That absolutely helped. The other bit that really, really helped me was our weekly accountability forms. We didn't actually have to have a call, but actually knowing that on a Monday morning I was going to write what I'd done the week before. If I hadn't done it by the Monday morning, I made sure I did it before it was kind of that having somebody external to share that with was really a vital part of the process for me. Definitely.
Fantastic, brilliant. And I do remember you going away from that day that we did in London, being really clear on your message as well, because from recollection you were kind of procrastinating a bit on your website, because I know you were
right.
For having that clarity, it just enabled you to go away and go, actually, this is what I do and this is what I know websites are an evolving feast, and we can tweak and tweak and tweak, but I just felt you had that real clarity when you left that day with exactly what you wanted to get known for and what you wanted to do with the book and through your business as well.
Most definitely. And I think that's the if I achieved nothing else, having that focus and that clarity now has really, really helped me hone my message, hone what I stand for, and is helping me to attract kind of the ideal clients, the ideal people that I'd like to work with. So I've examples of a couple of pieces of work recently where it's been quite transformational, doing team coaching, working with a team through some of the topics and themes that are absolutely part of the book, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's just fabulous to actually bring what I've written to life in a real sense and actually see the impact that it can make, when teams come together, take time out to actually develop relationships and work with one another in a different way.
Does it help you to attract clients like that because you've brought everything together into one place? Do you find it's just cemented your understanding as well of what you do?
I think, yeah, because it means, I guess, the messages that I'm putting out and the conversations that I'm attracting back are very much focused around building great teams now. And they weren't, you know, I've had a portfolio of events, development type days that I've done in the past, you know, and I could offer almost anything to anyone.
Yeah.
This has really helped me niche, I suppose, in terms of where can I add most value? What am I most passionate about? And it's really helped me identify that, without a doubt.
So what are you most passionate about?
So I am most passionate about working with leaders who recognise that there's a need for change in our organisations, that we need to move away from the more traditional styles of leadership, and we need to embrace a more human-centred approach. You know, for a lot of people that still sounds very soft, very fluffy, you know, not very tangible, but actually where I can see it happening, where I can see leaders who are becoming more, you know, adopting a more coaching style, a more facilitative approach, really engaging their teams to think for themselves and to think well, to encourage greater autonomy. It is transformational. People feel better about what they do. They feel valued in what they do, and it truly makes a difference.
And I can see and I can hear that passion coming through as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So you obviously engaged me as your book mentor. How, and I know you've just talked about the accountability, how that's helped you. What would you say has been the biggest impact on helping you to get your book done in terms of working with myself and the team?
I think it is that it's having the cheerleader support, you know, through the accountability, and it's the expertise. What I loved about our relationship is that you provided me with the mentorship around the bits of the process I would have been clueless about. So sort of actually getting through, you know, editing a book, getting it proofread, getting it designed, getting it printed. You know, I wouldn't have known where to start, and that in itself would have put me off starting. But I didn't need to know the answers for that. And what you did beautifully then in balance with that is the coaching part. So you left the content to me, but you had a fabulous coaching style that allowed me to explore, you know, what is the content. So I owned the content, you owned the process. And that for me was the perfect relationship, perfect partnership in terms of actually, you know, getting from concept through to book on the table.
I've got another question that Callum asked. He asked, what's happened to the understanding of yourself since becoming an author?
I think it probably relates back to the energy you heard just now when I was talking about sort of working with some idol clients recently. It's really helped me connect more deeply with what I feel is my real sense of purpose. It's helped me make sense of my corporate experience. Because at the time that was very hard, and I struggled a lot with letting go of the career that I'd built up and the person and the identity that I'd become. So it's absolutely helped me make sense of that, and it's given me a voice about what I truly believe in, and how I passionately believe that we need leaders to be usefully different. And they can do that when they pause and when they think, and they're more intentional about the kind of impact they want to make on the people around them. I don't believe anybody goes to work intending to harm or undervalue people, but when we don't think about it, when we focus on performance at, you know, at every level, we stop seeing people as human.
So you're making more of an impact, aren't you, through the book, through knowing what you believe in, knowing what you stand for, but you're enabling them to make a bigger impact on your leaders, to make a bigger impact in their organizations as well.
Absolutely. I see it as a ripple, very much a ripple. Yeah.
Well, we definitely we're speaking the same language in that respect anyway. With all of it. And I can see the difference you're making through what I'm seeing through social media and seeing through, and also seeing through the book as well. Because what I love about your book, and is that I've got a copy here, is that Karen went for full colour. Whoops.
You've got a bookmark too.
Bookmark. Business card. Hey, you know, you're learning and you're doing it really well. Fantastic bookmark. What was the decision for going full colour? Because that is a huge decision, because, and a lot of people, not many people do that, because there is an added expense when you go through, you know, you go for colour, but it really does create the wow factor, especially, you know, as I showed some of the illustrations you've got as well.
So I worked with a designer as well to do the illustrations, which in itself was a learning experience. I think that the book that I talked about, the tipping point that came through the door, was a full colour book. It was also hardback actually, and it made a real impact. It had a real wow factor about it. And for me, writing a book was never about making money from the book. It's about getting people to stop and pause and actually reflect on some of the messages in the book.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't about a cost. It wasn't a cost calculation. You know,
Yes.
it was about what's the impact that I want to make. And I'd done some branding work a couple of years ago. You know, and so the book has all been designed with my branding. And the great work that Vicky had done to help me do that. So it just felt like an extension of me and my business and what I'm becoming. So it was a relatively easy choice once Sam had sent through all the details for me, you know. So.
Yeah. And is it creating that wow factor you're finding with people who are reading it because it is colour?
Yeah, I get mixed feedback about the colour. I think I'm getting a lot of very positive comments about it being illustrated. It's not a heavy read. It was never intended to be a heavy read.
No.
The idea is actually, you know, there's a lot of white space, and that you pause and think about the chapters and the work that's in the book. And I think it absolutely is having that kind of an impact on people. It's peppered with a few diagrams, you know, frameworks, and hopefully written in a way that, you know, make it really accessible. They're tools, techniques that you can take and use with your team. Mm-hmm. You don't need to bring an external facilitator in. Even better when you do. But you know, they're things that you can adopt, messages you can adopt, and things you can experiment with your own teams. And that's what I'd really encourage readers to do.
Brilliant, thank you. So the book was published, I believe it was September 2019. What impact has your book had so far? What's your biggest success so far?
I think it's the clarity of message. Having written the book now, you know, when people ask me about the book, when I get into conversations, it's really helped me to hone who I am and what I do. And what I do is I help leaders build great teams. And what's behind that is my desire to enable people everywhere to thrive at work. You know, we spend so much of our time at work. If we can't enjoy ourselves while we're there and feel like we're contributing in something meaningful, you know, for me, it's not surprising that we've got the number of issues that we have around the world at the moment in terms of, you know, from a health point of view, from a climate point of view, you know, in terms of making good decisions. Then my whole message is around, and when we pause and when we learn to think well for ourselves, we're likely to do it better. You might still not get it right, but we're better than where we are right now.
Better than going full, you know, sort of like so quickly into something without actually taking a step back, slowing down, really thinking about what we're doing. Absolutely, I totally get that.
Yeah. And the number of people I'm coming, you know, every conversation I start almost with people is how busy they are. Mm-hmm. You know, I was working with a group on Friday, and the theme of the morning was around the busyness, and did they really have time to take time out to do the development work that we were doing on Friday? And they're really struggling between the doing and the being.
Of course. Yeah. And what impact has it had on your business so far? Because I know it's early days, but you know, has it helped you to get in front of more people? What's the biggest impact it's having?
Yeah, I think it's created lots of really engaging conversations around the content of the book. People either challenging some of the ideas, which is great. People loving the content. I've picked up a number of speaking facilitation type events, you know, where I can actually go and share some of the ideas and get people thinking about some of the ideas from the book, and they've been great. And I've got a couple more, a few more in the diary coming up over the next few weeks and months. So just that opportunity to share my message is just more available, more accessible, as more and more people start to find out about my work and what I'm doing.
It's interesting you sort of say, Karen, about sort of people challenge it, because I think one of the things that puts some people off writing a book is because you're sticking your head up the parapet, you're saying this is what I believe, and actually it's great when people do challenge it, isn't it? Because you know that you're hitting maybe a sore point or something with some people if they're reacting, you know, in a particular way.
Yeah, one of my biggest fears, I think, was that, you know, being seen, being visible for my beliefs. And it took me around September. I was probably not an easy person to live with, because I was quite fearful of being more visible. And even now, you know, I think there's a lot more I could do to make my work even more visible. I think I still hide away a little bit too much in terms of the messages. But actually, I've learned to be more at ease with that. The occasional challenge is absolutely, it's a healthy thing. learning to deal with that. And again, it's something I talk about in the book. If we can see challenge as a healthy thing, that change is trying to happen, then it changes my response. I don't need to defend what I've written. It's my view, and that's okay.
Fantastic. So what advice would you give to other people who are maybe thinking about writing a book, or they're embarking on the journey right now?
I would absolutely encourage people to take the step, find the support, put the support network in place to enable it to happen. I didn't, before starting, I didn't know what was going to work for me, but the formula that I have with working with you and your team, absolutely 100% successful. And there's something about just believing in yourself, that if you've got a message to share. As I said before, for me, it wasn't about creating a best-selling book necessarily. What I want to do is create a book, or I've created a book that I hope for the desks that it lands on and the leaders that it gets in front of it makes them stop. And if all that they do is read the title and that makes them pause, they almost don't need to read the content of the book. It's that the message is, we just need to slow down and think about the impact that we're having on the people around us.
And it's been great having this conversation today, just reminding me to pause, because I think as much as anyone, I can be as guilty as just going from one thing to another without really stopping. And actually we do need to slow down, and we need to listen to ourselves as well as other people. So it's a really good reminder for anybody watching this, listening to this, is to pause, stop. And I think what you really proved, Karen, is that someone who has a dream can, really get to grips with their message and actually make that bigger difference. As you say, make the bigger ripples as well.
Most definitely, yeah. So for all the budding authors out there, encourage you to go and do it, and get the support you need, and put fingers to keypads or pen to paper, however you're going to do it.
Brilliant. So have you got any other advice or anything else that you'd like to share before I invite you to share a little bit about how people can get hold of Pause and get in touch with you if they're interested in having you speak or work with their organisation?
I think we've probably covered everything that I wanted to share in the questions that you've asked, Karen. I think there is something about, it takes courage. So, I think I hadn't fully appreciated just how vulnerable I was going to feel around early September, end of September time as the book was published. And there's also something in terms of just being at ease and okay with, sales are what sales are. So a lot of people ask me, how's the book going? And in my mind, I've got that coded as how many book sales I'm making, but actually it's how many lives have I impacted. And I don't have to be selling books to be impacting people's lives. And once I've become at ease with that, it almost doesn't matter how many sales there are on Amazon. So
but it's also the longevity of it, and I think a lot of people, when they launch the book, they think that is the thing, but actually we have to keep going with any book promotion. I'm still selling, not promoting, I'm still selling my first book that came out in 2011, and occasionally I suddenly get a message from someone, I read your book, and like, which one? My first one, I've forgotten about that. So I think it's about the longevity of it, and it's one step at a time. Every person you influence is going to influence. So you impact the life of one leader, they're going to influence dozens, if not hundreds of people around them. So it's just really being able to take that step one step at a time, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it's a really useful reminder that that's what this journey is all about, touching a life at a time.
Yeah, brilliant. So Karen, how can people find out more about you and also get hold of a copy of Pause?
Okay, so probably the best way of connecting with me is on LinkedIn. So I'm Karen Mason. I guess there's lots of Karen Mason, so I don't know whether we can put a link under the video.
I will share a link,
to Karen Mason on LinkedIn. My website's leadingonpurpose.org.uk. And in terms of getting a copy of Pause, Amazon's probably your best bet. If you type in Pause Rethinking Leadership or Pause Karen Mason, you can find the book on Amazon.
I would highly recommend it. I think the book itself is great, but it's a really great example of how you can really stand out with the book as well. So I'm sharing this with a lot of people at the moment, just as a really great example of how you can stand out with the colour, if you wish to do so, and how the different elements of the book are clearly identified by the different colours of your branding as well. And it's also about how the branding and the business come together in the book, because it's not your everything is combined. I think that's what's really great. Through your message, through the branding, and through everything you stand for. So here's to you making a bigger difference in leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Karen.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, Karen. Lovely to catch up and see you.
Thank you.